Chapter 5. If they ever meant to break up the partnership, this would have been the time. 'Twas also out of the ordinary, Mason declares, that it must have been intended. An act of him so strange, his purposes unknown. That is, I'm not sure which one they mean. Mason instantly narrows his eyes. Who else could... Oh, I see. A common belief among your people? Oh, that coal mining, I guess. In the crucial moments, neither Mason nor Dixon had failed the other. Each had met the other's gaze for a slight moment before duty again claimed them. The vapours rising from the wounds of dying sailors, smoothing out what was not essential for each to understand. For the moment, they know they must stand as one, though not always how. Arrived in Plymouth dockyard, drafting the letter to the Royal Society through the dark hours, each keeps rejecting the other's ideas. The candles tremble with the vehemence of their speech. They are well the other side of exhaustion, and neither has bothered to keep his defensive works manned against the other. With what they've lately been through together, it seems quite beside the point for them to do so. At least they are past that. Each knows, that is, exactly how brave and how cowardly the other was when the crisis came. Sir, if you might arrange for us each to have a regiment, a frigate being impractical, given our ignorance of how to sail, much less fight one, we should be happy to proceed to war upon any people in any quarter of the globe His Majesty should be pleased to send us. Dixon, think, what if they should say yes? Do you want to command a regiment? Why, sir, 'tis nothing I'd rule out at this stage of my life. You're a Quaker. You're not supposed to believe in war. Technically no longer a Quaker, as they expelled me back at the end of October from Rabbi meeting, just before I came to London. So I guess now I may kill anyone I like. Mason pretends interest, having already heard about it in his briefing by the RS. And will any personal difficulties attend that, do you think? We have all of us the same Quaker families, Dixons, Hunters and Railtons in particular, again and again. A long history in Durham of being tossed out for anything, be it drinking, getting married by a priest, working for the Royal Society, whatever someone didn't like. To some Christians, disfellowship is a hard blow, for they have been allowed to know only others of their congregation. But Quakers are a bit matier, the idea being to look for something of God in everyone. The denomination's less important. I mean, I've met Anglicans before. I wondered why you never stare at me much. I've even seen the Bishop of Durham, one of the very biggest among thee, correct? A prince in his own lands. No, I've no problem with Anglicans. Thank ye. I welcome the return of at least an hour's more sleep each night, otherwise spent in fretfulness upon the question. Be assured, I have run across the odd Quaker as well. Mr. Bird, of course, coming to mind. and have ever found you folk as peaceable in your private discourse as you are assertive in your public doings. That's what people say for fair. There they sit, drinking up their liquor allowance, feeling no easier for it, trying to understand what in Christ's name happened out in the Channel. Neither is making much sense. They will talk seriously for half an hour about something completely stupid, then one will take offence and fall silent or go off somewhere to try to sleep. Out in the hall they keep running into each other, wraiths in night clothes. What have we said? Mason appearing to have given it some thought. In view of an apparent design by well-known gentlemen to put me in harm's way, huzz, if you like, exposing an undermanned warship to a certain drubbing, questions must emerge. Why could not the French Admiralty have been advised via Father Boscovich or another available messenger of the Seahorse's approximate route, her destination and purpose? Mason, come. They would have attacked anyway. Why would they believe any story from the English, be the messenger King Louis himself? A little sixth rate. What possible mischief could it get into? What possible threat to France? 'Tis called in that jabber over there, une affaire des frigates, an affair of the frigates, of forces less visible, I fear. Any more of that golden Virginian about? 'Twill settle our wits. And what each is surprised to note for the first time as a companionable silence, they prepare pipes, find a dish in the cupboard and a live coal in the fire, and light up. Wrapped tightly as within vacuum hemispheres lies the unspoken. The concentration of terror and death of but 2 afternoons ago transpired without one word, in brute contempt for any language but that of winds and masses, cries and blood. Impenetrable, it calls up questions whose awkwardness has only increased. As the astronomers have come to understand, there may be no way of ever finding the answers. Did the captain signal? Did they read it and attack despite it? Or because of it? It seems not to belong in either of their lives. Was there a mistake in the plan of the day? Did we get a piece of someone else's history, a fragment spalled off of some great moment? Perhaps the late engagement at Quiberon Bay, such as now and then may fly into the everyday paths of life, is less dramatic. And there we are, with our wigs askew. Happen, Dixon contributes in turn. We were never meant at all to go to Bancoulin. Someone needed a couple of martyrs, and we inconveniently survived. What a terrible thing to say. Terrible. Well, as to terrible, and what they cannot speak, some of it not yet, some of it never, resumes breathless sovereignty in the wax-lit rooms. In swift reply comes a letter of reproach and threat from the Royal Society. Some day, Mason and Dixon may not dream as often of the battle with the Frenchmen, but this letter they will go back to again and again, unable to release it. Not even the courtesy, damn, of a personal reply. 'Tis rather the final draft of some faceless committee. To my heart's cry, my appeal to Bradley for guidance, apprentice to master, confided confiding candidly my fears, trusting in his discretion. To a 4 years adjunct, his protege even longer. Instead of comfort or advice, he betrays my confession to some gang of initialed scoundrels, leaving them the task of bringing us to the level of fare needed to get us back aboard that dreadful ship. Yet others, carefully, might hear in it a distinct voice, indeed quite full of personal heat. Mason shrugs. Who then? 'Twas Morton, his signature. His eyebrows raked a shade too high for it to be other than a request to let this go. Ordinarily, I'd allow it to depart upon the tides of fortune, says Dixon. But as I'm included in this charge of cowardice, if it be a matter between thee and Dr. Bradley, why, I hope thou'd tell me somewhat of it. You suppose this is Bradley's voice? I think not, for I know him. Bradley cannot write like this. Even simple social notes give him trouble. Whenever their circumstances, now uncertain and eventual, shall happen to be reduced to certainty, not likely. That's deep. Reduced? As if there were no single destiny, puzzles Mason, but rather a choice among a great many possible ones, their number steadily diminishing each time a choice be made, till at last reduced to the events that do happen to us as we pass among them through time unredeemable, much as a lens, indeed, may receive all the light from some vast celestial field of view and reduce it to a single point. Suggests an optical person, your Mr. Bird, perhaps. Then the rest easy, mayn't thee? If it's I who's being reproved by my mentor for a change. Thus sleeplessly on both continue to rattle, whilst Plymouth reels merrily all round them, well illuminated as a scurry through the night. Lightning doesn't strike twice, suggests Dixon. Correct. It strikes once, as it just did lately for me out there. Now 'tis your turn. Hold. Are they sure of that?